People really seem to like my last fruit video where I talked about dumb strawberries. But today's video is not about any dumb fruit. Actually, it's about a fruit that I think I've misjudged. Now, if you know anything about me, and you don't, I don't like tomatoes. I just don't. I think I did when I was a kid. My mom used to grow them, but we used to have them to such a point where it was like on the dinner table every day. And at that point, it's hard to eat them without gagging. You know, like, have you ever eaten so much of something you just can't look at it anymore? That was tomatoes for me. And I've never really reacquired that taste. However, there's a species that is related to tomatoes that's actually native where I live here in Missouri. What is that species? Well, it is a handful of species actually called Physalis. These are also known as ground cherries, sometimes called Cape gooseberries, even though they're not related to gooseberries. And gooseberries are a weird plant too. Maybe I'll talk about those in a future video as well, especially because I don't like those either. But also sometimes called golden berries. So I want to show you, well, first, my plant, the one that I have outside. And so let's go ahead and show that off. This little picture right here. Now, it's a crappy picture because I actually did not take it for this video. I took it to send to my sister, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and share it with the people over on my Discord because I actually have a channel on the Discord specifically talking about fruit. I call it Fruit Bird. I know, very clever name. But anyway, this right here is one ground cherry stalk from a plant with 6 separate stalks growing. It's just one plant. It has a rhizome underground that shoots up stalks every so often, and 3 of them, which you can see here in this picture, the central one being the largest, but these 2 off to the sides as well, are all the ones that sort of popped up really early this year at the end of April, which was very surprising for me, but we had a very mild winter, so I guess it wasn't that surprising. So they've had a lot of time to grow, so much so that within a month they've already started putting out flowers and of course more flower buds and even have some fruit starting to form on them. Just earlier today, I went outside, braved my way through the mosquitoes, getting attacked the whole time, and noticed that we had 32 fruit or flowers or flower buds already on this plant, which is insane to think about because it's only about a foot tall. Now, again, that was on all 3 of these stalks. There is another stalk up here to the top corner of the picture. There's another 2 more stalks that are very short up toward the top. You basically can't even see them here, but the point still stands. It's a very prolific plant, and there's just one plant. I only transplanted one. This is a plant that I went and found in the woods near my house. I found it there. I knew what it was. I have found at least 4 different species of this plant here in Missouri, or maybe 3 species and, varieties within that as well. But the point stands that the ones that I have found have all been really fascinating to me. This one's probably my favorite so far. It's a very velvety leaf on it, very soft, and just overall has a very attractive appearance in general. But why are they called ground cherries? Well, the main reason for that is that you want to pick them up off the ground after they fall off of the fruit, or off of the plant, rather. So Physalis are actually pretty closely related to tomatillos, which are in themselves a relative of tomatoes. The main difference that you'll notice with tomatillos and tomatoes, though, is that tomatillos have a sort of husk that grows around them that protects the fruit on the vine. This has that as well. I know I just said vine, it's a plant, but you get the point, right? So you can see here that there are several pictures, one I can even click like this one, and this is actually pretty similar to the plant I have, not the exact same, but close enough to do what you needed to for this video, right? And inside each of these little lanterns, husks, whatever you want to call it, is a small fruit, honestly, maybe a little bit bigger than a pea in size, up to about dime sized. Of course, it's going to depend on the species. There are probably close to 100 species of this plant. I honestly couldn't tell you. Like I said, at least 9 in Missouri alone. Some of them have fairly small fruits like this one here on the inside of that larger husk. Some of them have fruits that'll fill out almost the entire husk. Mine fills out maybe about half, give or take. But I have also seen this plant sold in stores. Now you can see right here at the top, it says high severity poison characteristics. That is actually not an uncommon thing in the tomato family. This plant, you cannot eat any part of it except for the ripe fruit specifically. You have to wait till they fall on the ground to eat them, otherwise they might give you an off taste or could even make you sick. Being in the tomato family, they have a lot of toxins that many other plants in the tomato family also have, or similar toxins to those, right? So they are definitely something you kind of have to look out for, but as long as you know that they're going to fall off the plant on their own and then you can pick them up off the ground, you're pretty good to go. You can kind of pick them off the plant if they show signs of getting close to ripeness, but I wouldn't eat them right away. I would let them continue to ripen off of the plant. Say I went to a park and it looked like it was almost ripe, but it's not quite there. Maybe the husk around it is brown, but it doesn't just easily release from the plant. You may still be able to take it off anyway, carry it with you, bring it home, let it sit on the counter for a couple of days. What I try to encourage people to do if they don't know if this fruit is ripe is smell it. Your nose is the best detector when it comes to ripe fruit, and like bar none, this has always been true for me. The best bananas, I can smell those. The best pineapples, I can smell those. But even things like passion fruit, things like that as well. And so with this species specifically, it'll go from smelling either like nothing or very mildly vegetal like, maybe kind of like a cucumber a little bit, to suddenly smelling very fruity, very aromatic, very tropical almost, and citrusy in a lot of ways too. And that's when you know that it's really starting to ripen, but also color. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that there's no undertones of green to the fruit. If there are undertones of green, it could just taste really off, or it could, again, make you sick if you eat enough of them. A handful of fruit are not going to like kill you or anything like that, because the fruit are the part of this plant that are the least toxic and are not toxic when they are fully ripe. But these are fully edible. These have been staples of like Native Americans and Native Central American indigenous people for centuries. These are a very, very common plant throughout North America, throughout Central America, South America, and even I think parts of Asia have their own species that are native there as well. Don't quote me on that though, because there are a ton of them. There are so many of these plants. Just generally speaking, I love to look at them because I think they're very fascinating plants, and they're ones that are very easy to overlook. So this right here is the flower. As you can see, this is very similar to the flower on mine as well, kind of a sulfur color, a pale yellow, pastel kind of yellow color with these burgundy, almost purplish spots on the inside. Sometimes that spot is a full ring all the way around it. Sometimes the flowers are much more saturated yellow. Sometimes they're creamier in color. Sometimes they're slightly brownish or rusty or orange in color. It really just depends. And of course, it depends on the species, the variety, etc. But point still stands. These plants are also fairly popular as ornamental plants because look at those lanterns. They're really cute. They stay on there for months, so even after the flower is dried up and gone, you still get this little paper lantern to look at. And that is actually the calyx of the flower of the fruit that has grown over and around the fruit, essentially encompassing it to protect it from insects and pests and disease, right? And windborne, whatever the case may be. So a lot of really fascinating ones. There's this one right here. There's some you'll also hear about called Chinese lantern as well. And I think we may even have a picture of that in here too, like this one, which have these really nice looking reddish orange colored husks around their fruit that even dry orange I have heard as well, which makes these very popular for cuttings too. As far as I've heard with this one, this is also an edible species, but it's not a very tasty species. However, again, varieties and cultivars are always going to change. And as I've mentioned, I have tried these once from the store. I've only ever found them a handful of times, but I only went out of my way to buy them once. I tried them. I did not like them at all. They were very funky, kind of tomatoey in flavor. Maybe had a little bit of a fruity sweetness to them, but they were honestly terrible. And my mom loves tomatoes. She tried it too. She did not like it. She like gagged. It was awful. But I was brave enough still to grow them at home because generally I liked how they looked and I wanted to try native ones, not store-bought, right? So I did that. I got them from the woods. I transplanted them there, let them grow for a few years, and I tried my first one from this plant specifically, not from the one I transplanted, but from the same plant that it came from, I think 2 years ago. And it was delicious. Way more than I thought, because I really thought I was going to pop it in my mouth and hate it. Not at all. It was very, very good. It tastes kind of citrusy and a little bit, I want to say like tang, if you've ever had that. Not quite as tang-like as the actual like powder, the actual substance, but it had notes of that there. And I've heard some people say they taste like pineapple or mango. I could probably see the mango thing. I don't really get the pineapple portion of it. They've got a little bit of a tartness to them, but not much. And they're very sweet as well, very berry-like, very floral in flavor, just delicious fruit. And I was surprised because I did not like the store-bought ones at all. Typically at the stores, you will see them listed as Cape gooseberries or golden berries most often. That's not always the case. On this website, it says they can also be called bladder cherries, which I've never heard. They could be called Jerusalem cherry, which I've never heard, or strawberry tomato, which I think I've vaguely heard, but only when researching this plant. I've never heard somebody actually call it that. I've always heard Cape gooseberry, ground cherry, Chinese lantern, or golden berry specifically. And you can kind of see why too. The fruits in general are kind of golden in color. If we go ahead and look right back here again, and even on the inside of them, kind of look tomato-like, but they are missing that gelatinous sort of substance around the seeds. And that's true for tomatillos as well. They're much more fleshy than gelatinous in the way that tomatoes are. So very interesting plants, very interesting fruits in general, and I think they're one really worth going out of your way and growing. Or if you don't grow them yourself, but maybe you live in the Midwestern United States, or really just about anywhere in the United States, you probably have some of these species close to you. Do a little bit of research, try to find out what species you have, and see if they are edible. Most of these species, as far as I'm aware, are edible, but only the fruits, only when ripe. So just keep an eye out on them. When they fall on the ground, try them. Be smart about how you do it, of course. You can do research on how to check if something is like poisonous or something. Or if you have like allergies to tomatoes or tomato family plants, maybe then avoid it. But at the very least, I think this is one that you'd enjoy giving a shot at, because at the very least, it's a very pretty plant, you know, and that's not so bad. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps the channel out. And of course, as always, you can check out that Fruitberg channel over on my Discord server, which is linked down in the description below, as well as you can check out the Instagram and Patreon. And if you're curious about where to find these plants, I always find them right bordering the edges of woods, never really out in the middle of fields, but I hear they like full sun. I don't know yet. Missouri gets pretty hot, so I'll see y'all in the next one. Take care.